I am so glad to see all of my friends coming into the six screens tonight. And hello to everyone out there in YouTube and in Facebook. We really appreciate you coming in, as well as our people on our radio telephone network. Well, my name is Rick Farron, and what we do here every Saturday night, we've been doing it now for 20 years, we expose the Watchtower organization. Friends, they're an evil cult. And all of you folks listening in, for the most part, you know that. So, if you have friends that trying to wiggle their way loose out of the Watchtower and they're questioning it and they're wondering about it, well, by all means, let them come into the program. And if you like these programs, by all means, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It can be so helpful in getting more and more people. The algorithms in these computers at Google, YouTube will pick up on the more people come in and more people will be able to watch it. So by all means, stay in with us. Now we do have Anne Marie. She's the host of the program. So let's bring Anne Marie on right now. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. How are you?
Well, I'm cranking away at it. It's been really good. I'm seeing a lot of activity here in the Watchtower in the last week, Anne Marie. And of course, yesterday was a very momentous day in the days of the witnesses. But I'll tell you what, they didn't even know yesterday was Charles Stays Russell's birthday. I bet you knew it.
Oh, no way. I know he died didn't he die on the 31st?
Yeah, he died on Halloween. Oh,
So
yeah.
You're saying he was born on Halloween as well?
Did I say born? If I said born, I'm a bad person. He died. I said, okay. I'm sorry. My brain, I'll never get Alzheimer's, I don't think, because my brain's going a million miles an hour trying to talk to you. Look at the telephone lines and the computer network here. But no, he died. Folks, Charles Taze Russell died yesterday. But Emery, you know what he was dressed up in when he died, right?
Well, he wanted a toga, quote unquote, so that everybody could see how a man of God dies. But of course, they didn't have a toga, so they brought him a white sheet and wrapped him in that.
That's exactly right. But Halloween, and we're going to have a party on the JW World News program later on tonight. Near the end of the program, we're gonna have some fun. But I was thinking, Anne Marie, I kind of mentioned it in the preview that Halloween, it's spooky in many ways to the witnesses. I mean, not only because of all the spooky demonic costumes, but also they get spooked out because they don't know what to do with all the kids coming up to the house. So they all take off and go to a restaurant. I used to do it myself. So we used to kind of meet at a certain restaurant and talk about how bad and how ghoulish and how demonic Halloween was. Jeez.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I love Halloween. Living in San Francisco, most of people's homes are above the sidewalk, so almost every single door that I've ever seen in the city, you have to go up a flight of stairs. And we had our stairs rebuilt and painted, so I kept the wet paint sign, and every year I put that wet paint sign at the front of the stairs. Tell people I didn't celebrate Halloween because we were done with witnesses. I was so embarrassed.
Hey, that is something else.
That's one I've never heard, that wet paint. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good excuse.
I thought that was pretty smart.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though. In fact, where we live now, we had some trick-or-treaters come to the house last night, little kids. And even in some cases, the parents were dressed up with the kids. But they were so polite. Susan was so happy to give the candy out. And the kids came up and, something that we can never get that feeling as a witness. They gotta make everything seem like it's a bad thing. Little kids having candy. I mean, I don't particularly go way out and celebrate Halloween. I'm not into the holiday too much at all. But it was nice to see the little kids come around. And boy, were they polite. Susan was saying, Rick, these kids in this neighborhood are very polite. So I found that very fascinating. That was good. Of course, there's always some idiot.
I've been giving out candy for like 37 years. I have never, ever had a rude child or adult. They've always been very well behaved and polite. And, that's okay because I offer more. Oh, that's okay. Oh, thank you. The only holiday where you don't have to worry about giving presents or cooking a meal or having guests over your house, it's the only day that children and even teenagers and adults can just have fun, dress in a quirky way, and there's no downside. It's just fun. And it's fun, and I don't care what, oh, well, it's tied up with this next. You know what? Everything has a background that you can find a problem with. If that's what you want to do, don't come around me.
Well, you know,
the origins of it were the Celtic people honoring their ancestors, similar to the way that the Mexican holiday that has become popular is honoring the ancestors. So really, we should have a moment of silence for all the people that died of the blood policy and honor them because they died. And I think it's important and helpful to have a day where you can honor people that are missing in your life. Because we weren't given any way to grieve in the club.
That's so true. Yeah, yesterday was what's called All Hallows Eve, and today is the Day of the Dead, which ends tomorrow. And this is supposed to be, according to legend, when the veil between the third dimensional living people like us and the veil between those in their astral bodies on the spirit plane is the thinnest. So it is a way to honor, and I hold that as well as sacred. Can we welcome the show before anybody?
Yeah, in fact, absolutely, Anne-Marie.
I just wanted to let you know that I've got Thomas Hartman coming on tonight to tell a story, and one of our British friends as well.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Pixie. Thank you very much. Okay, well, Anne-Marie, let's cut you loose. I'm here if you need me. So go ahead and talk about the toxicity in the Watchtower.
Well, I'm hoping a lot of people will come up with their stories and their thoughts, like Pixie always brings out really good stuff. I want to thank you all for tuning in today, Six Green Saturday. This is the first show of the weekend. Today is Saturday, November 1st, 2025, and this show is called Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower, and we want to welcome everyone, as always we do. Always, especially more than anyone, I welcome PIN-Qs. Those are physically in the Watchtower, but mentally questioning. It's a scary place to be. I want to welcome the PMOs, who are still physically in Watchtower, but mentally they are out, they're awake, they've done the research, they know the truth about the truth. And I would not want to be in their shoes. That is real scary. And everyone who's made it out of that horrible cult, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's theme, I wanted to talk about the toxic people in the Watchtower. Were we also toxic? We dealt with different people who were toxic. Maybe some were loving and kind and sincere. There are a lot of sweet people in the Watchtower, but there's a lot of toxicity. So that's what I want to talk about today. So welcome everyone. Would anybody like to chime in and on the theme of being toxic? I welcome any thoughts, experiences. I'm sure Pixie can fill our heads because she's so educated. Anybody want to comment before I just get into a couple minutes?
Hello, Anne-Marie. This is Donald from Texas.
Oh, my God. Donald from Texas. I'm glad you're back. How are you?
You know, last time I was having trouble with my house phone, but I got a new one, so now I'm not cutting out anymore like I was. But anyway,
you sound great. I got a new phone too, so we're up and at 'em. What's going on? What's going on?
On the toxicity thing, with the JWs, from what I've learned over the years when watching videos, the whole planet toxic to the witnesses because everything to them is evil. I mean, the governments are evil, the holidays are evil, everything that's not part of their organization is evil.
That's all they talk about, except the money. If they can get money out of this toxic, evil world, oh, they love that money. They don't care if it's covered in the blood of the innocent. They want that money.
Oh, yeah. I sent Rick a file yesterday. I don't know if he got it, but it was a conversation I had, a long conversation that I had with ChatGPT, and I was asking ChatGPT all kinds of questions and talking to it about the witnesses, and we had a pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah, I bet. I've heard that's an interesting thing to use. I haven't done it myself. So what's on your mind? Do you have anything to add to your thought about how the witnesses see the whole world as toxic, they should talk.
It's just that everything to them is toxic. I mean, you can't read this, that's toxic. Can't read that, that's toxic. Can't see this person, that's toxic. Because they say that everybody outside the witnesses is bad associations. Already, they've labeled everybody on earth that's not a witness bad association, so that's all toxic. And even your own family that aren't witnesses, they're toxic even, because all the witnesses want is you to associate with just them and that group and to worship, and I do mean worship, the governing body. They are their gods. That is what Watchtower, that's what Watchtower is all about. It's about the governing body and their 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever, how many gods they've got up there. That's their gods.
Who can keep track? Who can keep track? It's amazing they've gotten so stringent about, bad association, quote unquote. Remember, they even had, I don't know if it was a video as far as from the Watchtower Society as an example of a good talk, but there was a short video of a talk that two sisters were giving on the stage when they still had the ministry school. And the sister whose talk it was talking about bad association within the congregation. I mean, it's bad enough you can't do anything with the world, your co-workers, your family who's not in the Watchtower. I mean, they were talking. This lady was saying that sometimes somebody in the congregation could be not good association. And she said it's kind of like this person who's not good association is like a toilet brush. You wouldn't clean your dishes with a toilet brush. I mean, I thought that was, it's like they just keep pushing the envelope. But it's insane, Donald. I think they are so insane. They're beyond.
One of the best ways to become bad association yourself is to simply talk too much about Jesus. Then you become bad association.
You know that, I don't know where it is, but there's a scripture in the Bible that says that no one can say Jesus is Lord except by Holy Spirit. And that's in the New World Translation. I don't know where it is, but if you have a concordance, it's just easy to look up. And I immediately pictured, when I first saw that scripture, I immediately pictured myself still in the Watchtower. And I thought, can you imagine if I had just stood up after the meeting when everybody's, having a nice time, fellowshipping, and I would stand up and say really loud, Jesus is Lord. Can you imagine how quickly I would have had stares and, oh my God.
You probably pulled into the back room real quick.
That was my next sentence. And it's funny, after I finally came to understand, God's plan of salvation, and this was only through studying the New World Translation 1984 reference Bible that I got it, and I was so excited. And I remember talking to my Jehovah's Witness mom, because she didn't shun me for like 25 years. And then she did shun me for 10 years, and then she started not shunning me a little bit. But anyway, during a time she wasn't shunning me, I was like so excited. Mom, I read this in the Bible and read that in the Bible. It was all about Jesus this and Jesus that. She got really uncomfortable, and she said, Anne Marie, I really am starting to feel very uncomfortable. And I said, why, Mom? What's wrong? And she said, well, you seem to be talking about Jesus and Jesus this and Jesus that, and we're only supposed to worship Jehovah. And I'm like, oh my God.
Weird, because the whole Bible is about Jesus.
It is, from Genesis all the way through the end of Revelation. And they don't know that. But anyway, we can't preach, and we can't, we don't want to upset anybody, because there are some who don't want anything to do with it. But what's interesting is, on the top subject of being toxic, when you're not even allowed to think or to ask a question or express an opinion, how toxic is an environment that has you afraid to think or speak or ask a question?
Yeah, that's pretty toxic.
But I never thought of it as being toxic.
They call that paradise.
Yeah. Can you think of like any example of anyone or an attitude of being toxic in the congregation? Like, I was just thinking the other day how it was that we struggled to get along.
Well, I know the video a while back. I think y'all mentioned one about two brothers and one of them was trying to show the other about an article, and that one brother that was a witness, he was going to say, he was saying, well, I'm going to turn you into the elders or whatever, and he said, well, you haven't even looked at the article, and he, and of course, you know how they did, they made the one brother that had the article like Satan was approaching the other guy, and so already to that one witness, his brother, not his literal brother, his brother in the congregation was toxic because he wanted to show him an article about the witnesses.
Oh, God. What's your name, brother, real quick? Again?
Donald.
Oh, God, I wanted to make sure. I don't want to get somebody's name wrong. Isn't that the truth? I don't know how long ago, if anybody can tell me, was it like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, all of a sudden there was this announcement that the Watchtower wanted all of their followers to destroy their literature from this year all the way back to whenever? So all of that quote-unquote truth, pure food from Jehovah and Jesus, all of a sudden it's apostate literature?
Yes, 1985.
All the way to 1985, Susan?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I believe, Anne Marie, I think Watchtower told the witnesses to send the literature in that they were going to put together some kind of a library.
Yeah, I heard
and
that.
And separate from that, over COVID, they told the elders to go to the library in the local congregation and destroy all literature from a certain day forward.
And what's scary is
that just shows.
It used to be that you
just
don't. Go ahead, dear.
No, I was just going to tell you that just shows you how diabolical this organization. They didn't want their members to read what they printed in the past, so they told them to send it to us because we're going to create a library and we want that literature for the library. Now they have all the originals. I'm sure they have every publication they've ever printed digitized. They can just press a button and print it as a PDF. But they would sit there and lie to the witnesses to tell them to send it in because they don't have their own information.
Exactly.
What a lying lie. I mean, it's mind-boggling. They lie more than the devil has ever lied if you read the Bible.
Thank you.
And they just think nothing of it. Yeah. Can I add one comment about toxicity in the congregation?
Oh, please do.
That will be a little bit before I woke up. I happened to meet a friend of mine, an ex-friend of mine, and he was telling me about this sister, and he was trying to help this sister in the local congregation. And he was saying, because I was married at the time, he was saying, it'd be nice if maybe your wife can kind of, reach out to her. She's a good person. He said, just nobody reaches out to her in the congregation, and she just sits around all the time pretty much doing nothing. And so he started telling me how at this congregation, the sisters would get together and they would deliberately not invite her. So they might tell her on a Thursday, hey girl, we're going to get together this weekend after service. We'll call you, we'll let you know, and blah, blah, blah. We're going to have food, this and that, and the other. They would tell her that. Then they would deliberately not tell her. And then on Sunday, they'd all be sitting there talking about how much fun they had, yesterday. And so after about the third or fourth time they did this to her, she realized finally that this was something they did deliberately just to hurt her. So I know that mean, I guess we'll call it mean girl culture. I know that exists just about everywhere. But to me, it's so toxic in the quote-unquote Christian congregation because if that's the only place where you're supposed to go for association, they don't want you to associate with your own family in the world in general. And then they deliberately don't invite you to do things and make sure that you know that you weren't invited, just to be harmful. And then what are you supposed to do? Go cry to the elders like you're a little kid? That kind of the games that these individuals play. And I had that same thing happen to me. Every brother in the Kingdom Hall was invited to this one ministerial servant's house one Saturday. Everybody. And then when I got to the meeting on Sunday, they all kept asking me, "Oh, we didn't see you yesterday." See me where? I was out there. I thought they were in service. They were like, "No, over such a house, man, we had." And everybody kept talking about how much fun they had and all of that. Now I'm not a child. It really didn't bother me, but it was just the point. The games that they play in that congregation, because in their mind, they can abuse you any kind of way that they want because there's no place else for you to go. Thanks, Henry.
Thank you for that. That is so true. That dynamic happens quite a bit. And I can remember as a teenager with my dad deciding that I was going to do what my parents wanted, and we were going to go out in service, and the car group literally left us at the curb. And I said to my dad, let's go home and have lunch. And that was always my response every time he was let down by them. And he had great authority and helped build the place. And then socially, I'd get left out of stuff. And the one time I ended up at a witness party, I played guitar, and this good-looking brother says, well, you can't play that. That's not a kingdom song. And then they went and had pizza and left me in the party room. And I needed a meal in those days. I was skinny. So I called my dad and went home.
That's so true.
Yeah, and there's just so many. And then I think about even me as a kid growing up. My dad was disfellowship when I was a little kid. And so I'm just kind of growing up. I don't know. I don't understand anything about witnesses or anything. And I would notice if I asked to go outside, well, you can go outside, but you really can't play with the kids. Well, how do you go outside and not play with the other kids? And then I began to notice as I got older, all the way into my teenage years, I was never invited to any of the, I learned that they call them gatherings, we call them parties, but I would learn they were always having gatherings and getting together. Nobody ever invited me. And I realized when I got older, it was because my dad was a fellowship. So they had to have a local meeting, local needs part.
Okay,
in the local needs part, yes, they had a local needs part, and in the local needs part, the elder said if a family member is disfellowship, that does not mean that the entire family is disfellowship. So we should not be ignoring them, and they specifically said not inviting them to gatherings. In fact, we should be inviting them even more because they need the association. And it wasn't until that talk when slowly but surely, I started getting invited to the witness gatherings, they call them, witness gatherings. But that's what it took. So, my whole kind of growing up was in this limbo of, well, you can't associate with the world, but then witnesses don't invite you to do squat either. Can't be with your family because they're not witnesses. Then witnesses don't do anything with you either. To me, that's another example of the toxic environment in an organization.
I can tell you of my experience of toxic environments in the congregation. So we know that there are different levels of toxicity, right? There's some toxic stuff that can kill you outright, and then some administer burns, some will make you sick, you end up in a hospital. So my experience of being treated in a toxic manner was going out in service in the country that I migrated to. And I was new to the country, not even 2 months. And of course, when I migrated, it was the start of winter, which was in January. And so when I went out to service, when I went to meet the group, they would pair everyone up. And then I would have nobody paired with me. And then when the brother who was conducting the field service group would pair a certain pioneer sister with me, she would be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't work with you because I'm only here to meet the group, but I'm meeting up with my partner. We're going on return visit. So most times I would be, left by myself. And of course they would tell me, oh, you know what you can do? You can work side by side with this couple, but you're not working with them. You're working on the same street or in the same building, but you're going to the doors by yourself, but they can see you when you go to the doors. So that happened one time, and then it happened a second time. And then I noticed it kept happening on the regular. And at that time, I had just came off the pioneer list because I told myself, you know what, I'm not going to pioneer anymore. So I came off the pioneer list, but I was still very active in service. It got back to me one day while in service in spring. This brother said to me, and this is true, no fault of mine. This brother said to me, "Oh, we don't know if you're a witness or not. You could be an imposter. You can be an apostate. We don't know if you're a genuine witness." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what you mean." And then he said, "Well, you didn't you didn't bring your publisher card when you came to this congregation." And I'm like, "I'm not supposed to do that, brother. The secretary from this congregation has to contact the secretary in my home congregation to have my card sent. I'm not supposed to be the one to bring my stuff wherever, whichever congregation I go to." And that went on in that congregation for an entire year. Well, by the time the end of the year came around, I was no longer a double digit publisher. I was a hit and miss every month, 1 hour a month publisher because of that treatment, because of that toxic treatment making me feel as if everything was on me. I'm the one who's supposed to make arrangement before I come to the group. And if I don't make arrangement with people I don't even know because I just moved into the congregation, then that's my fault. And the reason why nobody wanted to work with me is because word got around the congregation that they don't know if I was a true witness or not. And that went on for a whole year.
My God, I thought I had heard it all. What's your name, just to be sure? What's your name, my dear?
It's Nicole.
It is Nicole. Nicole, that, first of all, I think everyone knows it is not a Jehovah's Witness who moves. It's not their responsibility to carry records or publisher cards or whatever. Like you said, it's the secretary. It has to do with the elders. They're the responsible ones. And the Watchtower gossip mill is disgusting. I am so sorry that happened. How horrible that must have made you feel.
Yeah, it did, because on a few occasions I would be calling my friends back home. I would be crying to this elder and asking him, what is going on here? I don't understand what is going on. Why hasn't my card been sent? Why am I treated this way? And then he just said to me, oh, if you're not happy there, just move to another congregation.
Oh, what?
That's what he said. I'm like, okay.
That adds a whole new dimension to asshole. Sorry, Rick. Oh my goodness, I feel sick. I feel sick. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. You know, before they actually started having quote unquote marking docs, people would be in the congregation. They could choose to quote unquote mark another member of the rank and file and shun them. And it was called being marked. You didn't have to have a judicial hearing or be reproved or anything. People could get together and just decide you're bad association. You're not a good Jehovah's Witness, and they would openly shun you. And it was called being marked. But now go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Anne-Marie, but I want to add to what you're saying. The thing about it is, when you move, like when I moved from this congregation and I moved into another city and I moved to that congregation, whatever the elders sent over to my new congregation, whatever they said in that letter followed me. So the treatment continued. Okay? And then when I left that congregation and moved into the congregation, my last congregation, because I got married and I moved into that congregation, my letter from the second congregation followed me to this final congregation. And the treatment got even worse. It just continued. So it's been over 20 years of being in one toxic congregation and moved into another congregation that dealt with me the same way. So listen, by the time I got to my third congregation, it was like water off duck back. It just did not bother me that they weren't including me in their get-togethers. They weren't including me in their car groups. It just didn't bother me.
That is, so, I can't even imagine being treated that badly. Nick, that is just beyond disgusting. I don't have another word. I feel literally sick in my stomach. How did you put up with it? That's terrible. This is God's organization of true Christians, love among themselves.
I think one of the things that helped me not to despair, not to fall into despair, is that I don't have family members in this organization. None of my family members followed me in. And I came in as a teenager, so nobody followed me in. So whenever I mention anything that's going on with me in the congregation, they would be like, well, it's time to leave. We don't know why you're still there. It's time to leave.
And you can support. Yeah.
So my situation is different from all of my other friends who have third and fourth and second generation witnesses. I don't have anybody. So I got my support. I got my support from my people outside.
Yeah, I was wondering how in the world because this can cause mental breakdown. Because I always remember that so many sisters suffered from anxiety and depression and nervous tics, and a lot of them were on drugs. Nicole, that is horrible, horrible, horrible. And this is totally toxic. I don't know how much more toxic you can be, judging you behind your back. Did anybody come up to you and say, Nicole, I heard this, and I'm sorry, but I have questions. I don't know what's true or what's not true. What's your side of the thing? They never do that. They smile.
No, they never do. That's true. That's true. One last thing I want to add before I put myself on mute.
Okay.
I would always be disciplined. Always be pulled into the cold room, as we call it in the Caribbean. Always be pulled into the cold room for associating with my non-witness family.
Oh my
Always.
God.
I was told that I should no longer, yes, they're my blood relatives, but I should no longer consider them as family. I have a real family, a real spiritual family. This is the family that I am going to walk over into the new system with. If my physical or my blood relatives don't follow me into the truth, they're all going to die at Armageddon. Nicole, you need to keep this in mind. You need to remember this. You have a spiritual family. Your family is bad association. They will lead you away from the truth. Yeah, that's what I used to get. As a regular pioneer, I got that regularly. And then once I was no longer a regular pioneer, but they know that I went to family get-togethers and stuff, I still got discipline for that. I still got counsel, I should say, for that.
Oh,
yeah.
I am so sorry, Nicole.
Thank you.
That's the way it is. They want to separate you from your friends and your family, and they use the excuse, if they have the right heart condition, they'll want to learn about Jehovah, and they'll come to Jehovah's organization, and you associating with them when they don't want to be part of the true religion, quote unquote, that means that you're kind of like enabling them. I mean, they just get you from the get-go, Nicole. I am just so sorry you went through that, but I'm very grateful that you're sharing this experience, because I'm sure it's so common.
Well, Anne Marie, that this all fits into that toxicity thing, because when they're telling you not to associate with your blood relatives, who's this? That is not following Christ at all.
No, it's not. What's your name, dear?
This is Donald from Texas.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. Donald, that point deserves to be repeated if you don't mind. That was a very good point.
Yeah, because, if the Bible says to love your neighbor as yourself, then that doesn't mean just to love Jehovah's Witnesses. That means, now I'm not trying to preach, but it does say that. And it says to love everybody. But yet the witnesses, because of their toxic attitude and their self-righteous attitude that they have, oh, you can't associate with those people because they're not witnesses, but yet they're your family, and they recognize that, but still they say that because those family members aren't witnesses, that you need to cut yourself off from them, or as some people would put it, disown them. But that's toxic.
It's sick.
Yeah,
Toxic.
it's poison.
It's poison, yeah. I guess
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, who's this here?
This is Stephen. I had a question for you, Anne-Marie, and for Nicole. Nicole, are you still on?
She's listening, sure.
I am.
Listen, okay. I have a question for you two sisters because you are sisters. That same sister that I just talked about, who was intentionally not invited to gatherings and had it rubbed in her face, she used to also tell me how the elders, and she was in her, I want to say mid-30s, closer to 40. We're not talking about a teenager or anything. But she used to tell me how the elders, the married elders, would come on to her all the time. And so my question to you two sisters are, did you guys have that kind of experience where the married, well, I guess elders, period, married or not, were making sexual advances to you guys?
I did. Yes, I did.
Really?
I was 19. I was 19 at the time, not long baptized, and
Okay.
I was a regular auxiliary pioneer, and I had this brother. Yes, he was married. Came on to me, and he said, nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know about this. As long as we keep it between ourselves, we will not have to be disciplined or anything like that. He was unhappy in his marriage. Well, I went so quickly to the presiding overseer, and I told the presiding overseer because I was scared. I was like, "What is going on here? What is going on here?" And he got disciplined for it, and he was not happy with me. He wasn't disfellowshipped or anything. They just removed him from being an elder, and they removed him from being an elder. And then within 3 to 4 months, once the second overseer came and left, he became a ministerial servant. And then within a year, he was back to being an elder. But yeah, it has happened to me, and it wouldn't surprise me if it has happened to many other single sisters.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got accused because I'm naturally a very friendly people kind of person, and the association was with the rank and file in the congregation, and I would always feel relaxed, like, oh, I'm in the kingdom hall, I'm with my brothers and sisters, and I would be so happy. And I'm friendly with everybody. And the gossip got around that I was flirting with other sisters' husbands. And I never treated anybody any different. But not only that, of course, I was a former, and I was after other people's husbands because nobody wanted me. So I tried to get other people's husbands, and I'm like, what? Who actually stopped and think about that kind of mess? That's a good question, Susan.
Hello,
Yeah, who's this?
this is Susan.
Oh my God, I love Susan. Susan, what's on your
I just wanted to mention that this going around with these brothers. I don't know if they misunderstand. There was no misunderstanding on my part, but a brother would come over to my house occasionally, and I was married with 2 kids. So he was an elder, but he wasn't married. He was divorced, and he would come over and say, "Oh, would you wash my glasses, please? They're dirty." And I didn't know what to do. I would do it because I was afraid not to. I mean, I didn't know what to do, and then it caused a problem with my marriage because my husband thought I was flirting with him, which I was not. He just
it's always the lady's fault. Always our fault, huh?
Yeah, always. But he would just show up. How can I know when he would just show up?
That is
so unfriendly. I thought, well, why is he here? There's something he needs help or what? I didn't know. But eventually I just was just it, and no longer was I even nice to him.
Oh, Susan, that is so messed up. Did you guys ever remember me telling you the story of the poor sister back in the days where if a sister did have a job, she would only could have a job babysitting or house cleaning, and, you know, without getting in trouble. And this one sister, you know how all of your clients have to be Jehovah's Witnesses, so she would clean this one married brother's house when both the sister and the brother were at work. And she said this one time she went to do her job, let herself in. She was cleaning the house. And unexpectedly, while she was still there, the brother came home when he wasn't supposed to be there. And he made the excuse that he had to get something. He had forgotten something. And then he started talking to her, and, you know, her gut meter was going off, but she was trying to tell herself nothing was wrong. So the next thing she knows, he's raping her. And then when he's done, he says, "You say anything and I'll just tell him that you came after me and nobody will believe you." And he left. So she just kept her mouth shut. She was shocked. She didn't know who to tell. She couldn't even handle it herself. So she just kept quiet and tried to put it out of her mind. And about 2.5, 3 months later, she realizes she's pregnant. And she knew it was his baby because her husband had had a vasectomy. And so she's like freaking out, having almost a nervous breakdown. The poor thing, thank God, her husband was a good, loving man. And he knew something was horribly wrong. And she finally broke down and told him what was going on. And he was furious. He went to the elders, told them what his wife had told them. And they, called in the brother in a private meeting. And he denied the whole thing. Well, I don't know why she would. She must have gotten pregnant by her husband or somebody else. And I don't know what she's talking about. It went back and forth. And because the sister wouldn't break down, finally the brother who had raped her admitted they had had consensual sex, that she had seduced him. And why did he lie about it? He said, well, I didn't want to jeopardize my marriage or her marriage. And so this poor girl had to be talked about and gossiped about, going to the meeting with her belly getting bigger, and she got in trouble for lying and slander. True story.
It's typical.
That's what's really sad. It's typical. When I got attacked and I got called in front of the brothers 3 different times, and they all wanted details, who touched you where, and what were you wearing, and why were you there, and how this. And one brother said, how could you let this happen? I'll never forget them, blaming me. It's always the shame and the blame on the victim. And I don't know why it is, but it's supposed to be different in Jehovah's organization. And sadly, I think it's a lot worse.
Well, you got to remember, Anne-Marie, according to what I've heard, of course, what you've heard, the entire organization is nothing more than a boys' club, is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And they stick up for each other. And everything, like you said, everything is the sister's fault. Everything the sister does is always, always, always wrong. And they can't get any ground on anything. And what the brothers say is always the truth and all this garbage. But yeah, that's not just toxic. It's pure satanic evil.
I got a funny one. You'll get a kick out of this one. But it's not proper, but it's funny. I was doing care, so I didn't get to the Kingdom Hall very often in recent years. But I dolled up and I went with my neighbor. Now, my neighbor was a witness. I visited her house one time. She wasn't palsy with me. She's the one that came to me and said, what do I do about my marriage? And I said, well, go to the drugstore and get some lube. And she birthed 2 children and she didn't know to do that. So this rich sister takes me to the Kingdom Hall. Her grown, handsome son had just gotten married. I was delighted to shake his hand. I gave him the movie star smile. I shook his young, beautiful, newlywed wife's hand. I said, I'm delighted for you both. so nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. Wonderful that you had a great honeymoon. And I sat down next to my neighbor, and the meeting was about to start.
Oh, boy.
And her son, the young husband with the bride on the other side of him, he turned to me and smiled and winked at me.
Oh, my goodness.
And
Makes you sick.
I'm laughing to myself, and I couldn't laugh in the Kingdom Hall. I thought, that is hilarious, because I guess he just learned what sex was at 35 and now wants to flirt with a girl he's not married to. I didn't know what it was, but I thought it was hilarious and very improper.
Yeah, I don't know about hilarious, because I heard of one sister.
To me it was. To me it was, because here I'm the Bible study guest of my witness neighbor, and they know I'm from a witness family, and I was happy to congratulate the newlyweds. But if he's a young groom on his honeymoon, just back from his honeymoon, he's got no business winking at a sister.
Well, no.
Well, there was this one sister who had literally just gotten married, and I think it was within the hour, while everybody was fraternizing and congratulating, and the groom was over here fraternizing, and other people were congratulating the bride. I found out that the bride's maid of honor approached her, and she said, I don't know how to tell you this, but I have to tell you. She said, your husband that you just barely married like 45 minutes ago flirted with me and said that if he hadn't married you, he'd want to go out with me. The sister and a brother.
Oh, goodness. My
Yep.
goodness.
We find out things here and there, but when you know what they say, you find one cockroach, there's 1,000 million more.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I have one for you, Anne Marie. I had one for you. I had the sister that I was, I shouldn't say dating, because we weren't really dating. I wasn't in the truth at the time. But she was a born-in like me. In any event, I'm over visiting with her, and she says, a friend of mine's coming over. She's really kind of down in the dumps, and she's coming over to talk. So the sister comes over. Now, she's an actual in the truth, witness. And she was saying how she was pregnant. She was only a month or two pregnant, but she was pregnant. She wasn't showing or anything. And this Saturday that she came over and she was talking about this, the father of her child, who was a witness, I believe he was a ministerial servant, was getting married that very Saturday at the Kingdom Hall, getting married to some other sister. So he had, while he was dating the sister he ultimately married, he had started having sex with this other young lady and had gotten her pregnant. And she had no idea what to do, what to think. She was just traumatized by the whole thing. Yeah. And we're talking about somebody in their early 20s getting ready to have a baby by this male who had just gotten married to a completely different sister. And nobody knew, of course, that any of this was going on. Not the woman that he was marrying, not anybody else. And so I gave her the best advice that I could give her, but I was just kind of shocked by the whole thing.
Oh, wow. Go ahead. Wow.
Anne Marie?
Yeah, I'm right here.
It's RJ.
Hi, RJ.
Okay, I got a story about, you're talking about toxicity in the Kingdom Hall. There was one, like when I was in high school, I was a freshman. This guy was like a senior, and he's just like, hey, watch this. And he was teaching me that his method of, you tell a blabbermouth you got a crush on some girl, and then the blabbermouth, of course, makes it public, and then the girl has to decide what she's going to do with it. So I tried that like a couple of years later at the Kingdom Hall, and then the sister I told, she was talking to the other the girl in the Kingdom Hall, and then I go up to talk to them, and they're just like, "Hey, we were just talking about you." I'm like, "Oh, good things, I hope." And then both of them gave me the cold shoulder afterwards. So that method didn't work for me.
Anybody there?
Yeah, we're here. I just had to screen and hit the mute button. Oh my goodness.
But I would say, I'm sorry for that story. It got a little out there, but it just shows that witnesses are so maladjusted, they can't even have fun like teenagers do. And it causes a lot of problems, mental problems with them.
Yeah.
No doubt.
There's no time for growing pains and to learn as you go along and have fun along the way.
You know, what's really sad is things got so bad for me as a 14-year-old. I just didn't want to deal with any of it anymore, and I had nowhere to go. I had no way to escape my Watchtower life. So I started cutting school, and I got picked up by the police and put in juvenile hall, and then they put me on probation. I had to go in front of a judge for truancy. And I was just so angry because not one person, not even my mother, no teacher, no counselor, no probation officer, not even the judge. And I'm sitting there in anger with my arms folded, slouched down on the bench in the courtroom in front of the judge. Not one person asked me, Anne-Marie, why are you cutting school? Don't you know your education's important? Well, I was being told Armageddon was coming next week. What's the difference? I'm going to get killed. I might as well live now, right? So I got ordered to see a psychiatrist every week. I had to go downtown San Francisco and go to this psychiatrist, and I refused to talk. I would go there and I refused to talk. I would just stare out the window, and I remember thinking, how can going to a psychiatrist every week keep Armageddon from coming or Jehovah from killing me? This is what the strictness and this is a cult. You have no right to be you. You either be a conforming, fully programmed, indoctrinated Watchtower robot drone, or you're bad association, you're marked, you're a disgrace. It's just so nasty wrong.
Anne-Marie, I'm sorry, going off of what you said, I never really got a grasp. I never really visually saw like the Jehovah they depict. Did you have like a mental image of Armageddon or nightmares of it, and then like a vision of their God?
Oh, absolutely. All of us during the 60s had horrible nightmares about Armageddon. The fireballs, the earth cracking open, the tidal waves, people screaming, falling in the cracks of the earth. And we were constantly reminded from the podium what a terrible thing it is to fall into the hands of the living God. It was just constant nightmares. So, you know, I made sure I wouldn't raise my kids that way. Go ahead.
How are the
stomach too? And I used to, you know, really pray because I loved the people that lived on my street, and I didn't want my whole street taken out.
But somehow the fireballs and the earthquakes, it's going to save the nice houses you visit out in service, because that's going to be a sign to a certain sister that wants that after Armageddon.
I hear you on the house. I hear you. I got mine picked out.
They call dibs on it.
I got dibs.
Which is so morbid that God's going to wipe out 99.9% of the population. But hey, you'll get to live in this $800,000 home.
I know that Spanish-style 1920s mansion. I got it with the pool out back and the stucco. I know, and the circular driveway. Dibs. You know, I just went to my 50th school reunion, and those worldly kids are so nice. They matured so well. They had happy monogamous marriages. The ones that were potheads got sober. They were so kind to me. After 50 years later, they were just the kindest students and so nice. And 50 years ago, I don't know why I was marked. I think it was because I worked on a wonderful school play.
Yeah, like school sports or any extracurricular activities.
Because my parents enjoyed it, and they said it was very mature for us to do such a play. And they took this pioneer brother that didn't have 2 cents. He used to come to our house for dinner. There was no interest in me or anything, but we'd feed him. So they got him the $8 ticket, took him. And I guess he was shocked by the show, because the only other witness kid in my school says to me one Thursday, "Oh, well, you've been marked. Have a good evening."
Excuse me?
Wow.
So I guess it was me working on a school play. I did 4 plays that year. I got my thespian card and been in show business and radio ever since. So who won on that one?
And that's the thing about like the elders and the organization and that is they don't keep in mind, like not everybody's going to have the same life path. You know, some people only have their youth. Some people don't have like 30 years to make up for it. Sometimes, you know, bad stuff happens. They get cancer, their parents die, or, you know, they have a disastrous marriage or whatever. And, you know, something like a school play or, you know, hanging out with friends, you know, senior pranks, that's it for them. That's where they peak.
Well, you know, show business, if you start at 15 like I did, is kind of an apprenticeship. They said get a trade. I mean, they give you clothes, you learn how to do makeup, you learn how to make props, you learn how to dress people, you learn how to get out there and say your lines. There's a lot of skills in doing plays. So that's why my dad insisted on it. That's why I did those plays, because my dad said, "I want you to be in drama club." I was in drama club. And my dad was very strict. He didn't approve of all the high school kids or anything. And the kid that he didn't approve of that came to see me, he's a session musician now.
Aww.
So the arts can provide a job.
You know, I was talking to another ex-witness, and you know what they told me, and I got to agree with this. And he said the happiest witnesses that he knew that were in were the ones that knew how to keep an arm's length and keep it in moderation. The witnesses that go all in and they're on their kick and they get burned out and they're unhappy and it ruins their lives.
Well, also that blood policy is a danger, and the men that are standing over your granny's bed didn't even take high school biology, but that's all I'm going to say about that.
Wow, these are all really good points. I'm wondering, as I think we're kind of really low on time, I was wondering if I could go over a couple things that I had written down about toxic people in the Watchtower. Does anybody else have a point they want to make, or have anybody been waiting to speak? You have the right of way because this is your show. Anyone want to share a thought?
I appreciated speaking tonight because it's really, I'm not usually triggered by stuff, but it's triggered things 50 years ago, and it's just not good for the teens. You know, they should be out doing wholesome activities that are allowed by the school.
Yes, absolutely, Pixie. Absolutely. I mean, we couldn't join the chess club. We couldn't be cheerleaders. We couldn't go to dances. We couldn't do anything.
And there's the networking effect too. Like if you were best friends with somebody in high school or close friends with somebody and they start their own company or they become really successful, like they're going to bring some of their friends over or at least teach them something that they learned. And some people can really get ahead that way.
Yeah, I feel like we were walking a tightrope. I think Pixie is the one that brought it out 2 weeks ago at the last show, that being in the Watchtower was like walking with a brick on your head all the time, you know, balancing act, constant. Oh, God, how did we survive?
Now, a toxic story I remember, and I still, like, even being out and being older, I still can't understand where this person was coming from. But there was, you know, this one brother that he started going to my hall, and he was probably 3 years older than me. And he kind of had like an Eeyore personality. He was kind of like downtrodden, low energy. And he used to call me up and then vent and talk about all his problems and, you know, have me on the line. I was like his free therapist for like, you know, 45 minutes at a time or whatever. And he used to always call me up and all that. And I like assumed he was my friend. And then I was hanging out with, just doing teenager stuff. I was hanging out with my friend and things got, I can't remember what it was, but things were getting rowdy. And I called him up to say, hey, if anybody asks, I was hanging out with you. And then he's like, he wanted to know all the details about it. And then, like, I told him all that. I'm like, hey, you know, I appreciate this, and this is what happened, and, you know. And then he started causing drama, and he got his dad on the phone, and his dad was arguing with me. And then I'm like, well, what is this about? Like,
seriously.
But it's one thing if he just said, hey, I'm not doing that, you know, don't bring me into this. But he wanted all the info first, and then he started doing the drama when all I was a friend of his that listened to his problems. And then, like, and then that was like, whenever I saw him at the hall, I just avoided him.
Things just get, it's almost like they're
another one that's funny, but it's so wrong.
Yeah.
Now, you gotta keep in mind, 50 for me was a long time ago. I'm a grown-up. You know, I play Pixie for you here on the radio, but I'm a grown-up. And I had just bought myself a house. And these witnesses, I was having the Bible study because my family's 5th generation. I got C.T. Russell's autograph in the family Bible. So they're trying to get me bapped and get me back in and all like that, and I'm down with it. So they're in my new house, and this one sister was in my brand new bathroom for a long time. I said, are you okay? Did you pass out? She says, oh, I'm okay. So then she comes back out, and I didn't question her, and the next week she's there trying to help me with something else. I said, last week, I said, why were you in the bathroom so long? Why were you in that powder room? She says, oh, we were looking for drugs. I said, that offends me because I am absolutely a teetotaler. I don't have potheads in my house. I might look like I walked out of the 60s because I'm from that generation and I have the hair. But I said, I am not a person that ever uses substances. I don't even have any substances from my physician. She says, oh, well, you look like maybe you were a drug user. We were looking for drugs.
Now, Pixie, you're older. Do you remember Superman?
I do.
Now, in the comics, occasionally they would bring out red kryptonite. And
yeah.
A lot of these witnesses, it's like red kryptonite. It affects all of them differently. Like red kryptonite would make, you know, it would turn him into a lion, or it would make him a giant, or it would give him elastic limbs. But it always affected him differently. And they have all these mental disorders from being a witness, but they're not always unified. It's always something different.
Well, a lot of them are converts. Don't get the born in here started on the converts. But I was the star of that Kingdom Hall when I was 5 years old, you know. And then these converts, they got all these views that are not Bible, and they're not even in a witness paragraph. They come up with their own religion on their own. And I'm glad that, yeah.
Hey, it's David. I'm driving out to Culpeper right now. I got an investigation to go to. But I remember now when the little blue guys, I can't think of their names. The Smurfs. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when the Smurfs came out, okay? My wife was a witness at that time. And I was wondering why they were so paranoid about those things. So what I did was, and I was just being a smart butt at the time. So I went and I bought these little Smurf dolls, okay? They were like maybe 6 inches high or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a little hook on them.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I went to the Kingdom Hall one Saturday night, and I tied it onto the doorknob. And the next day, my wife had to go to the Kingdom Hall, and she went to the Kingdom Hall, and the scuttlebutt was somebody put a Smurf doll on our door. We have to wash it off with bleach. And I thought that was so funny because I did it. She didn't know it, but it was so funny because they were paranoid to touch it. They had to get a pair of pliers to take the wire off.
And you know, it was a third-rate cartoon show, and I finally saw the cartoon show, and it didn't have any demons or anything in it. It was just these little elven creatures having a world in a blue cartoon show. I don't know how the mythos happened, but this dancer pal of mine that was a sister, she'd been a ballerina, she was a family friend for decades and generations. And she told me the story about how the Smurf walked down the aisle of the Kingdom Hall. And I'm like, you're an educated person. You're a cultured person. You believe that? And she's like, oh yes. And that, I heard it was in the 80s. And I guess it was all over Pennsylvania. But, you know, now there's a Ben Stiller movie with Smurfs where he gets a thrift store item and it's haunted by Smurfs. And I don't know.
The word going around was that Smurf was an acronym for Satan's March Under Raging Force. And the story we heard in California was that a little boy in the Kingdom Hall during the meeting was playing with his Smurf in his hands, and all of a sudden, the Smurf jumped out of his hands and jumped onto the aisle and ran screaming down the aisle of the Kingdom Hall, and everybody who was seated for the meeting saw it, and he was screaming because the brother on the podium was saying Jehovah too much. Well, that went around everywhere.
It went coast to coast then.
What's that?
It went coast to coast because I heard it in Pennsylvania. My ballet friend told me in Pennsylvania, and she was older than me. She was a grown-up with children, and she was believing this. And I looked at her and said, "You believe this?"
Oh yeah, that's the way it is. There's some crazy stuff. But mostly to me, the toxicity is, you know, judging others without pointing out facts, talking about others behind their back and punishing them and shunning them, marking them. And just, that is so beyond toxic. And
unscientific medical advice is very toxic and can be life-threatening.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
I said earlier, they keep saying they have a spiritual paradise, but where is the paradise part? If everybody's talking about it.
Well, we used to have some really good picnics, but then they said we couldn't have congregational picnics anymore. That was the only little paradise part we got. That was nice.
Oh, wow.
That was a long time ago now.
I'm sure at those picnics, I'm sure people gossip about one another there too.
They were nice.
You know, I would say a good thing about
something else that's toxic is even their disfellowshipping, shunning, and private reproof, public reproof, because what happens is that they privately reprove, let's say they privately reprove a person, or even public. Everybody in the congregation is automatically going to assume that that person's done something. But there have been many people who are disciplined. Now, I mentioned numerous times on Six Greens, an ex-friend of mine who was disfellowshipped for 18 years, 1-8, and not for a disfellowshipping offense. So the point that I'm making is that's also toxic because you will sway an entire congregation of 100 people, however many people, against a person simply because the elders pronounce judgment against that person. And it could have just been they don't like that person. Somebody, I know a person who was disfellowshipped because he was dating his sister. He broke it off. He didn't think she was compatible. Many years later, he found himself in the congregation of this sister's dad, and that's that the father never forgot that this brother, not even engaged, just stopped dating. And whenever something happened with that brother, he insisted and made sure that that individual was disfellowshipped. In reality was he shouldn't have been disfellowshipped. So even that whole discipline process, that's also toxic because, again, they can be swaying everybody against the person, and in reality, that person might not have done anything to merit being disciplined that way. Thanks.
I couldn't figure out why they wanted to have fist fights in the parking lot when I was a young girl, about 14 or so. And I realized now that the young brother had been disfellowshipped for smoking a cigarette. Now, in Virginia, that at one time was the cash crop. It's a habit that I don't support. It's not healthy, but it's not against the law in Virginia. And he was disfellowshipped for smoking. And I saw that happen twice. And each time the brothers wanted to take it out into the parking lot and solve it.
I think that was one of the three things that like disqualified the witnesses from religious financial support was how they treat young people in judicial committees.
Yeah.
It's just like my father-in-law was disfellowshipped, okay? Now, this was in the early 80s. He was disfellowshipped. And then his wife became the head of the household. And everything had to go through her, through the kids, to get whatever had to be done. And that was a real put down until they moved from New Jersey down to here. I could never understand why that he had to go and ask his wife to go and get something and buy something, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? And then when he got reestablished in the Kingdom Hall that he was at down here in Fredericksburg, his brother from North Carolina, which was an elder, came up here and talked to this assembly and got him reestablished. But when he got reestablished, he had to pay X amount of bucks to get reestablished. So that's kind of crazy, right, in his own way.
I never heard of money changing hands for that, but go ahead.
Yeah, but after that, and he got reestablished here, his wife had to give up the checkbook the whole 9 yards. And she had to turn it over and all this other stuff. And now everything had to be questioned about what was going on in a family. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And I was just watching all this stuff.
In Scripture, the New Testament, it says, mind your own business. I'll have to find out where that Scripture is, but it's in the New Testament.
Wow.
'Cause
All right. Well,
they
I'm still driving out to Culpeper.
they get themselves into other people's business, David. You know it, and I know it.
Oh, yeah, I know it. I have 7 sister-in-laws. They always got into my wife's business between me and her. They try to break us up constantly.
That's wrong.
I would come home. I come home from mom and dad's house, or mom and dad's house. She'd be crying on the way home, saying that I was not a good person and I'm not a good candidate to be married to you. Blah blah blah. I'm like, you full of crap. You know, I'd be the only one that's going to take care of you and make sure everything is done for you. And that's the way I was raised.
They're not.
As a man.
It's not Bible. They're not supposed to get in a marriage. You know.
Yeah. All the other 7 sisters got up in her case and made her cry all the time. And I looked at her and I said this. I said, look, you don't need to be around your sisters when you go over there and they start making you cry because I'm not a Jehovah's Witness.
I'll have to look that scripture up for you in the New Testament. It more or less it says mind your own business, and it's in the Bible and it's in the New Testament.
Oh boy, I would like to know that one.
Not with scripture, David.
I would like to shove that down a couple of people's throats.
It's always good to talk about with scripture.
Just like this black guy, it was following my wife.
But you have to understand. It's irrelevant on the scriptures. You can read on the scriptures where Jesus said, if you had a problem with your brother, that you're supposed to put your sacrifice down and go and address the problem with your brother. When have you ever seen a Jehovah's Witness who had a problem with another one go to that person and say, I have a problem with it? I've never seen it. What I've always seen is they go run into their favorite elder to complain about what they feel like was an oversight by some sister or by some brother. And then the brother, the elder, comes to you and says, it's come to our attention that you did thus and so. That's in the scriptures. They don't follow the scriptures. They have a culture of snitching on each other and then running to the elders for everything when the scriptures clearly say you're supposed to settle differences between each other. And you only go to the elders if you can't settle differences.
Well, they try to take from the widows and the orphans, and I think they took that forgiveness scripture out where Jesus says, "Go away and sin no more." So they've taken about 20 scriptures out of the Bible.
Yeah. When I went to Ringo, Pennsylvania in 1989 for the Ringo, Pennsylvania conference, and with Mr. Setnar and Mrs. Setnar, and I sat down and they talked to me and they explained to me about the Jehovah's Witnesses. I had no clue what I was going to go into. I was scared to death. I thought these people are going to convince me to go to the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's what the way it was. And it was totally the opposite. They were showing me not to be a witness. And they showed me by the way how they wrote the Bible and everything. And then the people sat down and give me dinner. They give me breakfast. I didn't have a place to sleep. They got me a old trailer on the property to sleep in one of the bedrooms, and I was fine. Next day, they made sure I had food. They made sure I took a shower, everything, and then I sat through most of the conference and everything. And I was like, wow, okay. And then they really gave me a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But the only reason I went to their conference was because I went and I called Randy Waters, and his book is a black book. It's talking about Jehovah or something, blah, blah, blah. And I went and I read that book, and on back 3 pages, I found his telephone number. So I called him up. He says, you need to go to Ringo, Pennsylvania conference. That's why I went to that conference. I went to that conference in '89, and then I went to in 91, and those people were so helpful to me. And I got a couple people doing some other things, you know, in this general area. And then after I got in touch with most of the witnesses, I started my own private library thing at the library. And then I did a thing with the library, and I stayed with them, and I made all the videotapes that they said I could make, and I went and I used them and put them in the public libraries in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I did all of the 30 libraries in Virginia that I could get to, and that's what I did. Now, this past year, they have taken all those out of the libraries. The witnesses have.
Yes, it's not the librarians. The witnesses go in and take them out of the collections.
Yeah. And that's what I was doing. And now they're asking me to bring the other ones back, and I'm going to go and do all that this year. It cost me $300 or $400 to do it, but I don't care. The money ain't the problem. It's getting these people out.
I gave a lot of books to the Fredericksburg downtown branch. That's a beautiful branch, that library.
Oh, I love that branch. In the two ladies who were running in the 90s, they were great.
Yeah.
With me.
Nice.
So.
Nice. I love our Virginia library system. I really do.
Oh, yeah, it's great. But I'll let you guys go. I'm still driving down this dark road.
You know what I say, David? I was born in, and they put a new branch of the library literally doors from my teenage home. And I say that the Virginia library system saved my life, because rain or shine, I could walk to my library, and it really was a lifesaver for me. It gave me answers on many, many topics for free.
Exactly. And I learned so much by going to that library and then going to a Christian bookstore. And I was thinking, wow, Christian bookstore? Where's a good Christian bookstore? I walked into them. I walked in that place. They turned around. That was over there by the mall.
Yes, I've been to it.
I went out there, and it had a big golden arch like type thing over it. And I went in there and I said, what kind of cult books do you have? They turned me on to Randy Waters' book. I bought it. It was $12. I went and bought it and read it. And I was on my own trying to figure this all out, and I figured it out. It took me a while, but I learned a lot on my own.
Yeah.
So I was pretty good with everything. So I'm still driving down the road. So I'll let you guys go, and I'll just
hear from you.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out.
I think
I wanted to ask Rick, what was that?
Sorry, Anne-Marie. I just wanted to add, there's a scripture that he was asking about where it says, live quietly and mind your own business. That scripture is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 11. In the New International Version, it says, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we told you to.
Wonder what the governing body would do if we went up to them and read them that scripture. They know how to dish it out, but they sure can't take it, can they? I need to ask Rick how we're doing on time. I think we've gone a bit over, but you guys have made it such an interesting discussion and so many things to share. So, my brother Rick, are you there?
I'm right here, Anne-Marie. You got a lot of people coming in tonight. It's really packed in here. A lot of people coming in the telephone lines. You want to keep going for a while? Can you do that?
I will. I have
have my little great granddaughter on my lap and I'm feeding her and I am happy. And yes, I will do it as long as people want to share. This is such a great place for people that you provide, my brother Rick.
Yeah, well, they come in here and talk about their trek. So, yeah, why don't you go another 15 minutes or so, and then I'll cut in and let you know what's going on, okay?
I appreciate that so much. You keep me on my toes now, don't you, my brother?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Good job of it. Okay, my brother. Again, anybody listening, we are basically focusing on the toxicity of the Watchtower, toxicity of the people in the Watchtower. When we were in the Watchtower, we couldn't help being a little toxic ourselves. Maybe we're toxic toward ourselves, downing ourselves, feeling shame, guilt, feeling like we weren't good enough, and so on. It does affect you being involved with anything like gossiping or judging or being self-righteous. All toxic. So we had a lot of great experiences. Go ahead, brother.
Didn't they years ago, I say this because I wasn't studying with the witnesses very long, but didn't they used to tell witnesses that they were good for nothing slaves?
Yes, you remember that. Yes, they did. That we should never forget that we were nothing but good for nothing slaves. Yep.
I was never told that myself because I just studied with them. I didn't get baptized or nothing, but I remember on earlier videos that's what that people would say that that's what they were told, that they were, good for nothing slaves. I mean, boy, some paradise. They're called slaves.
I didn't mind being a slave, but being told I was good for nothing. It's like everywhere you turned, you were a piece of garbage.
Oh, wow.
And we were even at one time called cockroaches.
As I recall, the Bible says to not put a lampshade on your light. Don't put a bushel over your light. You're supposed to let your light shine. But they didn't want us to read that scripture. I was told that scripture didn't apply to me.
Oh, brother, I'm just so full of it. They're just twisted. Whatever works for them at any given time, that's what they do. But if you try
I was a true believer. I'm not a convert. I was born in. So it was very difficult for me to reshape my brain and get my brain around a lot of this. For the convert, I think it's easier for them to process it and leave. They have something to go back to. But looking back on it as an adult and analyzing it and doing side-by-side comparisons, I think that everything they say and everything they hand to the membership is counter to what the Bible really teaches. That's why that book, What Does the Bible Really Teach? I think somebody pointed out to them that book wasn't what the Bible really teaches.
That's why they keep using it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pixie, you always really...
I just wanted to...
Excuse me, I'm trying to compliment Pixie. Don't interrupt me, please.
Sorry.
I want to tell Pixie that over and over, she is one of the most faithful callers that brings up the best points. I just wanted to, give her some kudos.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's been a long, hard road.
Yes, it is. Brother, I'm sorry for cutting you short, but brother, please feel free to talk.
Oh, I just have a quick one. One of the other toxic things that's always bothered me, and I saw this a lot more as a kid, and that was the way how Watchtower would really push that scripture from Paul, and I do not like Paul for a myriad of reasons, but there's a scripture that Paul wrote about staying with your husbands and that your good conduct may win them over. And we had a number of women, some were even right about 5 years, and their husbands, who were not witnesses, were very physically abusive. And I'm talking about broken noses, black eyes, busted lips, broken arms, very physically abusive. And because of this go to the elders for everything culture, they would never call the police and take whatever action. And that was also kind of typical of the day. And I'm very glad that that's changed in society. But for that time, so they would go running to the elders. And of course, the elders would and could do nothing. And they would read them that verse in Paul, where you just keep being the best wife that you can be, and perhaps you'll win them over. And by the way, none of these abusive men ever became Jehovah's Witnesses, by the way. So that verse didn't happen for any of them. But they just kept sending them right back to these people who continue to abuse them for as long as I can remember. And that's just another aspect of this toxic culture.
Oh my God, no doubt, no doubt. Would it be? And there's so many examples. It's like the more you think, the more you remember, and it's really messed up.
It's really messed up. And my dad even told this one sister. My dad, as I mentioned before, was disfellowship when I was a little kid. He was a great big, large and in charge type of guy. And he told this sister, he said, "You need me to come over and set your husband straight. You just say the word." Now, the elders would do nothing. They never contacted this husband, said nothing. Everything was, you just keep going to service and pray to Jehovah, and, you just pray while you're getting your ass kicked, I guess. But my dad was the opposite. Yeah. We had a next door neighbor. She was a doctor, and she was married to this no good. He said, "You know what?" And he would beat her. And one day we were sitting at the table, and we heard the beating start. And my dad got up from the table, and he went in his room, I'm sure, to get one of his pistols. And he came out, and he went next door. And the only part of the conversation that I heard was, "If you lay another finger on her, if you beat her, I'm going to beat you." And this guy was probably about half the size of my dad. My dad was a large dude. And that next weekend, that guy was packing up his stuff, and he moved, and we never saw him again. So it always struck me how in Jehovah's organization, when it comes to these really serious matters like domestic abuse, it's just amazing how Watchtower could do nothing, the elders could do nothing, but yet the police could do something. People like my dad, who were real men, would stand up for what's right, and they could do something. But that just to me epitomizes the toxicity of this organization. It really does. Thanks, Emily.
No, I really appreciate your bringing out that some of the most horrid stories of abuse, not just physical abuse, which is bad enough, but the constant mental and emotional torture, and the poor child, or maybe it's the wife that's being abused. There's no way out. You can't say anything because you're a complainer. You're trying to cause divisions. You're committing slander. You're bringing shame on Jehovah and his organization. You're just trapped. Anything you wanted to add to that thought? Is this RJ that's been talking? Hello? Well,
no, this is Stephen.
Well, this is Stephen. It's the guy before. Was that RJ? Yeah. That's what I thought.
No, that was me.
Talk to me.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Talk to me, Stephen. I'm listening. Stephen, were you going to talk, sweetheart?
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking who gave the last comment, and I was saying Stephen is the one who gave the last comment about the domestic abuse. That's all I was saying.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the validation.
Yeah.
It's sad. It is so sad. It's very bad. And I cannot believe I survived in there and even treated my children the way I treated my children. If they weren't perfectly performing Watchtower drones, oh my God, I treated them so badly. I love my kids. Yeah. That's how you did the Watchtower.
I wish I had a dad like yours.
You wish you had what, dear?
I wish I had a dad like Stefan.
Oh,
well, you know, I as I got older and I was a witness, and I'd be talking to the brothers, and they're like, you know, you should think about being a servant so we can promote you to being an elder. And I told them, I said, you know, I don't think I would last as an elder for very long. I said, because I'm not a get along to go along type of person. And I said, and I'm not people. I'm not going to be, you know, my voice is not going to be ignored. I'm not going to be silenced. And when there's things that need to be done, I'm going to go do it. So I don't think I'm going to last. I would last longer than elder. And they would all kind of look at me shocked, like they had no idea of what I meant. But it's these kinds of stories, you know, when I saw how my dad really helped people. I mean, my dad had allowed 2 different sisters to move into our house because they were victims of domestic abuse. 2. And nobody else in the congregation opened up their home to these 2 sisters. My dad did. And my dad let it be known, everybody came bringing trauma and drama to the house is going to be dealt with. And you guys never came to the house, and they were allowed to stay there as long as they needed to. And he used to disfellowship. The elders and the other brothers and sisters in the so-called congregation did absolutely nothing. So all of this stuff was in the back of my mind. Like, you know, you guys might think it'd be great for me to be an elder, but I'm not one of you. I have to stand up and do what's right. And try to make a difference and really help people. Just telling somebody to read the Bible and go on service while they're getting beat up and all the rest of that, that's not going to work. So I wouldn't have lasted anymore. I really wouldn't.
Hey, Stefan, this is Rick Farron here at the control panel. Are you doing something different on your phone? We're getting like an echoey loud sound. Are you going through speakers of some type or what?
Just using my Bluetooth headset. I'm on speakerphone right now, but I'm done talking.
Yeah, in fact, if you can do it without Bluetooth, it would be better. It would be better.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, but I'm all done. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Everybody just is bringing up such illuminating points. And I think being out of the Watchtower, we tend to kind of forget what it was like to be immersed in not only a tyrannical, dictatorial, mind control cult it was just so difficult, but we forget the subtle evil, I won't say evil, the subtle toxicity on every level from different people, the meanness, talking behind your back, the gossip. You know, there was a song that came out in 1972 called Backstabbers, and the line I always remember is, they smile in your face, but all the time they want to take your place. The backstabbers are talking behind your back while they're smiling in your face. You know, they're trying to ruin you while they're smiling in your face. And you have to really, really pay attention and learn to recognize it and learn to stand up for ourselves. But even when we knew we were being treated unfairly or things were being said or done that were hurtful and were not Christian at all, we were the ones that were told, well, you know, we need to work on our attitude, and you need to be more humble, and you need to be forgiving, and Jesus said to forgive 77 times. And so it's like the victim was the one who was always seeming to be counseled to just basically bend over and take it.
Other churches have had problems with the abuse of minors. There's a news story this week of Church of Christ somewhere on the East Coast that had some lawsuits. These other churches have had problems, but not every church has.
Right.
You know, I've gone to Methodist, I've gone to Catholic, I've gone to synagogues, I've gone to temples of varieties of different beliefs, and their people aren't bullying each other all the time. They're not in it that much. They're there about once a week, depending on what day they choose to worship, and then they go on about their lives. We were in this insular little cult thing where we're only supposed to associate with that group, even if we have a wonderful town around us. And church is not supposed to be like that.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just so glad that we can talk about it now and really see it. I mean, to be told, like Nicole brought out, she was the only one in her family, her blood family, that was in the organization. And she could talk to her blood family about, you know, how hard it was being in the organization, how she was being treated, the unfairness, the coldness, the judgment, the arrogance, the gossip. And, you know, she could talk freely to them. But in the meantime, Watchtower's attitude is, if they're not faithful to the organization, they're bad association. Doesn't matter what they're doing, doesn't matter if they're child molesters or gossipers or wife beaters or the type that says they're going to borrow your money and then don't pay any of it back and you can't do anything about it. It doesn't matter. The whole criteria is this person faithful to Jehovah's organization or not? So they're telling Nicole that she's doing wrong by associating with people that obviously don't have the right heart condition because they won't come over to the Watchtower. This is some twisted, evil mess. It's like right is good and it's wrong, and bad is bad, but it's good. Because the criteria, go ahead.
Also, the people that want these positions of power, when my dad was a congregational servant and they had the congregational overseer, those two men, they ran that like a little church and they helped every congregant, sometimes out of their own pockets. And these people are all dead now, so I can tell it. I'm not going to name names. But this one young sister, her husband was in an institution. He was in what we call the nut house. And he was in a very famous nut house. And it was very scary. And my dad used to take her to visit her husband because no lady would want to go into such an environment by herself.
Right.
And they gave him hell for it. And it never was fair. It never was anything untoward. It was so she didn't have to go in that environment by herself to see her husband.
They got to find something that's
the elder arrangement came in soon after that, and they pushed him out of helping. And these power-mad men that weren't even in our original congregation decided they were going to take over. And I've said to you before, I think the one guy that took my dad's position, I think he's got his own cult in Costa Rica. I found him on Facebook.
Oh.
He was like a little dictator and criticized everything I did, everything my dad did, marked me. He had issues. He had issues.
No doubt.
And the other wonderful brother that was my dad's best friend, he had moved up in the organization, so he wasn't in our little kingdom hall anymore. They had gotten trips to different places around the world and all kinds of things. So it's been a long, strange trip. Maybe that's why I'm such a teetotaler. I've had my own long, strange trip without the pill.
Isn't that from the song Truckin'?
It is. It is.
Love that. Yeah, now it's going to be in my head. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to look it up on YouTube. What a long, strange trip it's been. And you know what? Those words fit us so well.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
But you know, Pixie just brought up a really good point of why this organization was just hell to be a part of, especially for us Bornians, is because we could never get away from these damn people. You know, you just couldn't. Yeah. Everything had to be. You couldn't even be with your own family. You couldn't be with any friends you might have at school. The only reprieve I had as a young person growing up in this cult was going to school, because in my grammar school, all the way up until 8th grade, there was not another witness. I was the only one. And that was, of course, a curse and a blessing. But, you know, high school, there were other witnesses, but there wasn't any witness that I ever ran across in school that was just glad to be a witness and couldn't help telling everybody and preaching to everybody. It was always kind of quiet. Like, you only found out that they were witnesses because you didn't see them celebrating holidays or anything like that. They never really advertised it to anybody. And even the witnesses that were there really didn't know, they made no attempt to get to know each other or associate. But the point is, the only reprieve we got from being around these people was at school. And other than that, you were just, everything was witness, witness, witness. And I think it might have been a lot more tolerable for us born-ins if we could have had some kind of reprieve, but we didn't.
It had to be so hard for you, Stephen. How was it for you specifically?
Well, I didn't like, my youth was an interesting thing. Fortunately, the only positive thing I could really say is I had family that lived in California, and my grandparents were wealthy, and so they had the ability to send for me. So I could, when school was out for the summer, I spent the entire summer in California. In fact, I was at the same congregation where the musical family, the Jacksons, the same congregation that the mother, my sister Catherine, and the oldest daughter, who was never in the industry, that same hall. That's where I went as growing up. And so that was a blessing because at least I got to go and travel every summer. Same thing for the winter. And then, of course, I had tons of family in California. That's probably the only thing that saved me. I think I probably would have went insane had I not had that outlet. I don't know how the other kids that I grew up dealt with it, but I can tell you not one of the kids that I grew up with, and we had one of those halls with a ton of kids, not one are still witnesses today. So that will tell you. So, it was tough. I mean, it toughened us up. When you're standing there as a kid having to constantly tell people you don't celebrate holidays and you're telling the teacher and the substitute teacher. We talked about this before. I was always out in the hallway because every morning we started with the Pledge of Allegiance, lift every voice and sing, on and on. Well, if you didn't sing that, you had to go stand out in the hallway. Well, when teachers see you in the hallway and the administrators, they think you're a problem student. So right off the bat, I would always be treated pretty harshly by the teachers at the beginning of the school year because they're thinking, oh, this kid's a problem kid. He's always out in the hallway, till they realized it wasn't that. It was because he was a witness. And again, you're the only witness in the school. And so that was the curse. But the blessing is that you were the only witness in the school. So you didn't have that snitch thing going on where everybody's watching every little thing you did. And the one beautiful thing that I noticed about people in general, but kids especially, kids will typically accept you over time wherever you are. And I never was bullied. I never had kids really make fun of me. They were very understanding. They ignored the fact that I didn't celebrate and this and that. They just adapted to it and got used to it. And like I said, they are the ones that really helped me. They were my reprieve from going to all the meetings and being around the witnesses, was being with those kids. That really kind of saved me. So between that and traveling, that's about the only thing that saved me. But I can always say, if I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would have never gotten baptized as a witness, and I would have gotten away from them as fast as I could.
Oh boy, it seems like in every situation you just tried a way to work with it, and I can see and understand that it was not easy for you. But thank God you got to go to have a break in California. Even your your kids, were they witnesses in California as well?
No, none of the family. None of my family in California were witnesses.
Well,
so,
I'm just kind of amazed.
still...
Your witness family let you go to your non-witness family. It seems to me that whether it was subconscious or not, they knew that mentally and emotionally you needed a break.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and like I said, my dad was disfellowship, so he didn't have this fear of Watchtower, fear of the elders. He didn't have any of that. And he was like, hey, you want to go? Go. Have fun. And, call me when you land. And if you need anything, let me know. So he was all in favor of it. So, but that's what saved me. I have to be totally honest. That's what saved me.
Hey, Anne Marie, we're gonna why don't we wrap it up right now so you can say goodbye to the audience. Let them know what. Take 2 minutes and go ahead and do that. Okay.
Okay, thank you for giving us way over time. I do want to thank everyone for coming in. We have way gone over time.
Today's subject for November 2025, touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, was basically the toxicity of Watchtower, how toxic it was to be in Watchtower, how we were toxic, we dealt with toxic brothers and sisters, and it really did affect us. And I hope that we can continue this discussion next show 2 weeks from today. I want to thank Rick and Pixie and Donald from Texas and Susan and Nicole and Stephen and RJ and David. And please forgive me if I forgot anyone. I am taking care of 3 little babies and my brain is all over. But I want to thank all of you. You guys all give the best comments. Any last word? Because we do have to wrap it up. One last word? 10 seconds? Okay, we'll say
well, I thought I'd say hi to Stephen, RJ, and Nicole and you too, y'all here too. And I like how y'all were saying about, and Pixie, about what about the music lessons or instrument lessons. I wanted to put that in there since y'all were putting all kinds of things in there.
Well, that sounds good, Dallas, and I'm so glad you chimed in. I haven't heard from you a while. But we do need to end the show. We need to go to Rick and JW World News. Rick, thank you for giving us some time.
And now.
Turning it over to you, my brother Rick. Thank you, Dallas.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie, and we certainly appreciate you coming on and doing a program every other Saturday night. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Now, Anne-Marie will be back on with us tomorrow. She'll be on at 2 o'clock tomorrow, and she has a program called Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses Share Their Story of Being in the Watchtower. So she'll be coming on tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and if you have a story, if you want to tell your story of what it was like when you were in the Watchtower, well, be Anne-Marie's guest tomorrow. Come on at 2 o'clock, same telephone number you see on the bottom of the screen there on YouTube and Facebook. If you'd like to tell your story and what it was like when you were in the Watchtower, she'll give you up to 45 minutes, an hour if you need it. She will treat you really kind and lovable on the program tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. Well, we're going to go to JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But we'll be talking about Halloween tonight. We'll be talking about Sweden. Oh, the good news coming out of Sweden for all of us. And we're going to have a little party tonight here, a Halloween party. So by all means, stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Stay on this YouTube channel and Facebook channel, as well as on the telephone line, which is our radio network. So thank you all for coming into Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower.